You're prepared for any situation in your home. But what if the hammer drops when you're away from home? Do you have what you need to make it home alive? And everything in here is what I would need to get home if my car weren't working anymore. I have had this bag for about a year. Never saw that before. I don't like that, but maybe not because thousands and thousands of people do it, but I buy these. Hey guys, it's Jara with Wicked Prepared. Welcome back everyone. Today we're talking get home bags. What are they and why do you need one? I'll show you mine and I'll tell you why I think it's possibly the most important kit or bag you can put together. Unpopular opinion, build a get home bag before you build a bug out bag. I first realized the need for a get home bag quite a few years ago when Mr. Wicked Prepared and I were talking about EMPs. I knew some things about EMPs, but not a lot. And he was telling me really the extent of what an EMP would mean, what it would really mean, and what it would do. What it would mean for our technology, our communication, our transportation. Now, obviously, we really don't know for sure exactly what the effects of an EMP would be, and opinions vary on a lot of things. But in prepping, we don't take any chances. We plan for the worst case scenario, right? If you're not familiar with what an EMP is and what the fallout from one could be, we do have a video on that and I will link it down below in the video description. So the reality of what an EMP could do hit me, and that was definitely sobering. But then I started thinking, what if I was away from home when this happened and cars weren't running and communication was knocked out? I often travel a few towns over, about a 30-minute drive to a different town for a lot of the errands that I have to run. That would be a long walk home. At this point in my life, I had never heard of a get home bag, but I realized I needed to keep some supplies in my vehicle to help me get home if something like this were to ever happen. And come to find out, I wasn't the first person to think of this. Get home bags was a thing and I didn't invent it. But that was the impetus for me to put together a get home bag or kit. However, a possible EMP isn't the only reason to have a get home bag. There are lots of reasons that you might have to leave your vehicle and set out to get home, to get help, to get to safety, to get somewhere. It could be your vehicle malfunctions or breakdowns in a remote area. It could be weather or some kind of natural or man-made disaster. Roads could become impassable, they could be blocked, bridges out, gridlock, you just never know. We've all heard stories of people who took a wrong turn or get lost on some remote back road, get stuck, or their vehicle breaks down. And if rescue doesn't come, you've got to rescue yourself. That's when your get home bag and gear could be a lifesaver. So I'm going to show you my get home bag and the gear that I keep handy to prepare for possible situations like this. And then afterward, I'll tell you why I think a bag like this needs to be at the top of your priority list as far as kits you should be putting together. Keep in mind, my get home bag is a work in progress, as are all of our preps. We are always making improvements, adding and changing things with all of our kits. I welcome your feedback, your ideas, comments, things you think I need to add to my bag, etc. Also, with this get home bag, this is building on things that I would already be carrying. We all have some form of everyday carry items, gear, things we always have with us. That includes things like your cell phone, whatever you carry for self-defense, some everyday tools that you keep on you every day for everyday situations. Maybe an EDC first aid kit. I have a video on mine that I will link down below. But some things may not be included in this bag because they may already be a part of my EDC items that I would just toss in before taking off. Now keep in mind, everyone's get home bag will look different. Your needs might be different than mine depending on a lot of things. The climate where you live, whether you're in an urban area or a country area, how far you usually travel from home. Although I think it's always best to prep for the worst case scenario. If 9 times out of 10, you're only 5 miles from home, but once every 2 weeks, you're 50 miles from home, prep for the 50-mile trek. You just never know. All right, so I'm going to show you my backpack and what's in it. Now, this is the backpack that I'm using. There's nothing really special about this backpack. It's not expensive or fancy. It's just what I'm using right now. I've been through several. I do like this one. This is 35 liters, I believe. This right here is just my sweatshirt that I have strapped onto the front. So I'll show you the front of the bag. It's pretty plain. It does have some MOLLE straps here, so it might be a little bit tactical looking, but I don't worry too much about that. Around here, I mean, this is a pretty, you know, normal backpack that you would see in these parts. I really don't think too much about it. I carry a backpack very similar to this a lot, just in my everyday life. So, and yes, we do have 6 dogs, and 2 of them are Huskies, so there is dog hair all over everything I own all the time. Now, one reason I did pick this pack is because it's hydration compatible. It didn't come with a bladder, but it means that you can put one in, which is what I've done. I don't have it. You can see this is one of the ports. There's one on each side that you would thread the little drinking tube out through from the inside of the pack. We really like that type of packs when we're hiking and walking, because we like being able to hydrate and get a drink without having to stop and take our pack off to get water out of the pack. The only thing I don't like about the hydration bladder style of drinking is having to wash the bladders. They're really kind of a pain in the butt to keep clean. But of course, it is empty right now. I would not store it with water in it for that reason, but I have lots of water stored in my vehicle at all times. So if the time came that I had to use the pack, I would fill the bladder with the water in my car and then get going. Another thing I really liked about this pack is that this one had some waist straps. And it actually came with this pack. This is an extra pack. It's not part of it, but it can snap right on. So that's what I like to do, snap it right onto here. So I have something that I have a little bit easier access to, but it is a separate pack. But I love that this pack has the little padded waist straps here that helps to distribute the weight off of your shoulders and just kind of make it easier to carry. I know that very well from many years of lugging kids around in baby backpacks. A lot of the backpacks I looked at in this size and price range only had, you know, this type of a strap, which isn't going to really do anything to help you distribute the weight. So I do love that the pack has these straps that you can strap things onto the outside, because sometimes you just need to do that. It has a front pocket here, 2 pockets here from the top, one that's a middle pocket and one that's a rear pocket. It's nice and padded on the back. This is pretty comfortable to carry. And then it's got 2 zippered pouches on either side. They're not water bottle pockets, which is fine because this has the hydration bladder. Another thing I like about this backpack is it does have little straps here that you can hook things on. If you want to hang your sunglasses here, I've got this little light hung here. If you want to hang things off the front, you can. And of course, it has the chest strap. I'm going to put this over here so I can go through it pocket by pocket. But first I'm going to go through the little pouch that you can clip on the outside. In this little pouch, I just wanted to keep everything that I might want to have the easiest access to. Things that I wanted to have, you know, be able to just grab without stopping and taking my pack off. All right, so inside of this pouch, I've got some stuff. So first I've got some snacks. There's more food inside the big bag, but this is just kind of grab and eat on the way snacks. Kind of hoping you might get there on just these snacks. I've got a Cliff Bar. I've got some Kind Bar minis, some Honey Stinger bars, and that's it for the food inside of this pouch. But I do have some energy gum. This is caffeinated gum. This has 100 milligrams of caffeine in it. I live and breathe by coffee, and so if I may not have coffee, I think I do have some packets of coffee in my food pack in here, but I'm not going to have hot water probably. So sometimes you just need a little boost of energy to kind of keep you going, especially if it's a long journey and maybe you don't want to stop, or you have to stop and rest, but you don't want to necessarily sleep, depending on what the situation is. So I've got the energy gum. And then I've got some lights. I have a headlamp. Headlamps are awesome for being able to see where you're going, what you're doing, but still have the use of your hands. So they're really, really wonderful. I have this wrapped up, and then I have a hair tie, just using it to hold it compactly, because I think the hair tie can also come in handy, especially if you're putting on a headlamp, you might want to put up your hair. This is actually a hybrid headlamp, so it has like a rechargeable battery inside, and I do have that fully charged, and then it also can use these batteries. So the way I have this wrapped up, because typically I like to carry gear like this without the batteries inside of it, because they can accidentally get turned on and then you waste all your batteries. So The way that I have this wrapped, this battery pack is covering up the button so it can't really get pushed. So I think that this is going to be okay. It's been okay so far. If it were to accidentally get pushed and run out the battery, of course, I would still have these batteries to use. And even though I love the headlamps, I did pack one small handheld flashlight just to have, just in case I wanted to be able to shine it around or anything like that, or if you have more than one person and you need light. Next in here, I have some sunglasses. Now, this is not what I would typically choose for fashionable sunglasses. This is not something I would typically wear for glasses, but they're actually DeWalt protective sunglasses. So they do have UV protection, but they also have some protection for your eyes if there's any kind of debris or any kind of, anything in the air like that. So I thought this would be a good thing to have. I do wish I had a case for them, but any of the sunglass cases that I have found so far, they don't fit these glasses. So I think they'll be okay. They've been okay so far. But if this was an emergency situation, I wouldn't be too worried about the style of the sunglasses. Just doing the function would be what was important. I also have a little bottle of hand lotion. This for me is non-negotiable. I need lotion with me at all times. I can't stand the feeling of having dry hands. So I always have a small bottle of hand lotion with me anywhere I go. So this is no different. And then I also have a chapstick, of course, and this is one Weather Guard with some SPF. Those are comfort items. If my lips are dry or chapped, or my hands are dry or chapped, I just don't feel right. Down in the bottom here, I do have an N95 mask. This is just in case I had to travel through any place where there was smoke, like any kind of forest fire or any kind of destruction that might cause debris to be flying through the air. I would have something to protect my mouth and nose a little bit. And then back here in this pocket back here, I do have a bandana. This is kind of a wild colored bandana. It's just what I got, what I had. You could use any bandana. Bandanas are great because they're multi-purpose. There's so many uses for a bandana. You could use this for first aid purposes. You could use this for an arm sling or to hold on a bandage, especially, in a strange location like a head or a jaw. You can use this just to wipe your sweat or to wipe your hands as you're hiking. You can use this to pre-filter water. This is not going to make your water safe to drink, but it can get out the debris, the leaves, the dirt, the little stones, bugs, things like that, so that your water filter doesn't have to do as much work. They can be a head covering, they can be a face covering, they can be all sorts of different things. So they're great to have. They are very light and don't take up much space. Back here, I also have a phone charger. These I love. Everyone in my family has these or multiples. I have multiples of these. This will charge my phone at least 100%, at least once, maybe a little bit more. And it has the cables built right in for different types of phones. It has USB-C, micro USB, and the Lightning iPhone cables. So these are great. And next over here in these front pockets, I do have a pepper spray that has, this has a glass breaker on it, and it has a seatbelt cutter right here. Probably don't need the glass breaker or the seatbelt cutter, you never know, but I just thought it would be handy to have some pepper spray. And then I have a length of flagging tape. Now this, I just pulled it right off the roll and kind of wrapped it back up in itself. I didn't want to have to carry the whole roll because it was kind of bulky and heavy, and I don't think it would be necessary, but I thought this was a good thing to have just in case I wanted to mark a trail, if you want to keep track of where you're going in case you need to find your way back, if you want to mark so that someone else would be able to know where you went. There could be a lot of scenarios. I know a lot of the gung-ho kind of survival guys always say, you don't want to give away your position and you need to be hiding in incognito. And that may be true. There's plenty of situations where that may be true, but there's just as many situations and possibly more likely situations where you might actually want someone to find you and you might want to be seen. So it can't hurt to have something like this. Now here I have a couple of things of aqua tabs. These have, I think, about 10 tablets in each of these little sleeves, and I did write the directions right on here since I don't have the package, how much you need to put, how much water per tablet. I have other ways for purifying water that I'll show you as we go on, but you can never have too many ways to do something. Then I just have a signal mirror, which I thought could be handy, and I did put this right in my easy grab pouch because if you're wanting to be found and you have a plane go overhead, you're not going to have a lot of time to be dumping your backpack and digging through it to find another pouch. So I kept this right in the front pouch here. And of course, this is a safety whistle or a survival whistle, whatever you want to call it, in case you need to make a lot of noise and be heard. One more thing I forgot in this back pocket These are my little thin optics. I love these things. These are pretty awesome. They have a keychain, so they could be on a keychain, but this pair I just have in here, and you just slide them out, and they're a little pair of reading glasses, and they can just set right on the bridge of your nose, and they work really well, actually. And then you just kind of stick them right back in there and pull them back down in, and they're ready to go again. I need reading glasses. If you can't see, you can't do a lot of things. And so I need to have some handy at all times. And then the last few things here is just a few pens and markers. I always have these dual tip Sharpies on hand. I love these, the narrow end and the regular end. You'll see later on, I do have something to write on. But you could also mark maybe lengths of this flagging tape if you were hanging it and you wanted to leave a message. There's a lot of things you could mark with a Sharpie. I have this wet erase marker because I thought this would be handy for marking on the laminated map that I have if I wanted to mark out a trail before I took off. And then just a regular pen, because you never know. So now let's get into the other pouches. I'm going to start with this very front pouch because it doesn't have much in it at all. So the first thing I've got in here is just a roll of toilet paper flattened down in a Ziploc to keep it dry. You could flatten this even further if you can get this cardboard insert out of the middle. And then this is just a dry bag, a waterproof dry bag. And inside of it, I've just got, this is a hat. This is a fleece hat, like a winter hat. It's not, I don't take this out of my bags because here in Maine, we can have weather in the middle of the summer. Sometimes it's really cold at night. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. And the other thing is, if I were to take seasonal things out of the bag, I just know myself well enough to know that I very well might forget to put them back in. And then it might be November, December, and all of a sudden I'm stuck in my car and I don't have my hat. So I just leave this in all the time. Then I have a neck gaiter, which could be used for a lot of things. It could be used for warmth, but it could also be used as a face covering. It could be used for concealment if you're worried about being recognized or facial recognition or any of that. It can be used as a headband. You actually could even turn it inside out, and then if you cinch this up with a hair tie, turn it back the other way, and you'd have a hat. But you could use it as a headband or a neck warmer or a face mask, all sorts of different things. And then I have a pair of gloves. This is actually just Dollar Tree work gloves, but I kind of like these. These I'm thinking of for double duty because they are work gloves. You might want work gloves if you encounter any kind of debris that you have to move out of the way, if there's trees fallen, or if you have to get through, areas where there's a lot of debris, maybe in an urban setting, anything like that. Broken glass, anything. You might need some work gloves, but these I do think would be enough to keep my hands a little bit warm. They're very similar to my daughter's winter work gloves, waterproof winter work gloves that she has. So I put these in there to do double duty as a warm glove if needed or a work glove if needed. But whatever you do, I do think some sort of glove could be a good thing to have. So next in this middle pouch, first on top, easy to grab, is a first aid kit. Now I actually really love this bag. We have a few of these because I think they're really great for first aid kits that you're taking with you, portable. But after all the years that I've had this bag, it still has a lot of features that I haven't even figured out. It's got these clips. I'm not sure what these are for. It does have a tearaway pouch, Velcro patch, so I could attach this onto the outside of the backpack just like I did with the other pouch, and you could just tear it away if you needed quick access. It has this carry handle, but this is the other thing I really haven't figured out, is this whole setup here. I'm not sure why it's got, well, I guess that goes down there. So I guess I'm just not sure what this strap is for. If anybody has a clue, let me know. But this first aid kit is just a really basic, simple first aid kit. It's not meant to deal with major trauma or a long period of time. It's really just for basic minor injuries and things you might run into if you are having a long trek. I do have in my car, I always have my trauma kit. So if I were to decide that the situation were where I was running into that type of injuries, or where I could run into that type of injuries, I could always grab my trauma kit or anything out of it that I needed. But this just has your basics. We've got Neosporin and Neo to go to clean and treat. This is just some bug spray. I've got some more different water purification tablets here. This little container has a tweezer, I mean, not a tweezer, but a nail clipper. Probably not necessary to have it in a little container, but I thought the container could be handy if you needed to take any kind of a specimen, like a bug that bit you or something like that. And these are the compressed towels, the emergency towels that you put them in the water and they just open up into a really big towel that you could use for cleaning things or anything like that. Back here, I do have a small Write in the Rain type of notebook, all-weather notebook, and that is in case you need to make any kind of notes about anything, tourniquet times or anything like that. Of course, I don't have a tourniquet in here, but there is one in my trauma kit. I've got a Sharpie for writing in that. Some packets of poison ivy, pre-treat and post-treatment, because we have some family members who are really sensitive to poison ivy. Back here is all sorts of different bandages and gauze and all sorts of things like that. Up here we've got these. I thought were really important considering that you could be walking or riding long distances. This is some Body Glide Foot Glide anti-blister balm, and this is the Body Glide. It's a women's, just an anti-chafing balm. A couple of packets of hydration stuff, and then these are for bug bites right here. And then in here I do have an emergency blanket, just your basic really cheap Mylar blanket that can be good for lots of things. And then I have some things for, these are special Band-Aids for blisters. I take them out of the package, so I do write the instructions right on all the bandages. And then moleskin, because if you were walking a long distance, you would definitely want to have that kind of stuff. And then this pouch just has all sorts of little packets of, you know, things like Advil and anti-diarrheal. We've got anti-itch cream, Excedrin. There's sunscreen packets. There's all sorts of different things in here. Tylenol, anti-itch, triple antibiotic. There's burn cream. I absolutely love little mini packets of things, pills and lotions and things, because it can allow you to carry a wide variety of things. I really wouldn't be able to carry a tube or a bottle of all of these different things, but I can have just enough for, you know, one or a few people for one or a few days. Next is just kind of a little self-care kit. There's not a whole lot in here. I do have some hand and foot warmers that I thought could be important. This is a little 2-pack of those little toothbrushes that already have the toothpaste on them, just in case. I do have a small pack of wipes. It's facial wipes, but you could use this on your body or anything. The facial wipes come in a smaller pack, and I know that they're going to be gentle. And then I do have some feminine items, because being a female, you just never know. And then I have a little brush. It does have a mirror on it, and it just pops out, and it works just fine considering it's light and portable. So there's not a whole lot in here, but I do have more extensive supplies like this, obviously, in my car. So if I felt like I needed something like deodorant, you know, a little deodorant or anything else, I would be able to grab that from my car as long as I had time and add it to this pack. And next up in this middle pouch is just another one of those waterproof dry bags, and this has a change of clothing for me in it. I do like that this bag is almost the perfect size. If it wasn't cinched up like this, you could stuff this with anything, dirty clothes, clean clothes, leaves, anything like that, and it could be like a little pillow if you had to take a rest. I just have a very simple outfit in here. Everything's black. I thought that was inconspicuous, and it would match with anything if I was mixing and matching with clothes I had on. I know in an emergency situation, I probably wouldn't care about that. I know I wouldn't care about that, but right now, I do think about it because I'm a female. Not to mention, I could always be grabbing out of this bag if I just had an everyday emergency, if I was just out and about somewhere, I wasn't stranded, but I got my shirt dirty or my pants dirty or something like that. I could always grab. As long as you remember to put things back immediately, it's okay to take out of the packs, in my opinion, because I feel like it's better to use this stuff rather than stashed away in the case that you might never use it. People tend to feel like it's pointless and it's wasted, and then they stop doing it. So I think it's better to use it if you need it. So everything is black. It's all kind of wrapped up into the hood of a sweatshirt. I've got a couple extra pairs of socks. This is, of course, is an addition to the couple of pairs that I have with my boots in the trunk of the car. And then I just have, this is just a really light material, but really soft hoodie. just from Walmart, and it does have the thumb holes on the sleeves. And then I've got a pair of black leggings and a black t-shirt. And it's just, this could be good for layering. This could be good to mix and match with the clothes I already had on. If I was caught in an emergency, I could either layer this with the clothes I had or change when I got dirty. One thing I didn't show you is, of course, underwear. If you want to have underwear in here, you would enclose underwear as well, obviously. So this gives me quite a few different layers. The t-shirt was short sleeved. The sweatshirt, of course, is long sleeved. And then I have the fleece that I had on the outside of the bag. So that can layer up to keep me fairly warm. If it was winter, I should already have my jacket in the car. And I do have a packable jacket that I keep sort of extra in there as part of my vehicle emergency supplies. So if I needed anything like that, I would grab it and put it on before I took off. Next in here, this does have this little zipper mesh pocket, and there's not a whole lot in here. What I have in here is a Write in the Rain notebook. This is a little bit larger than the other one that I had. They don't seem to make these really big, but I wanted one that was as big as I could find. And I wanted to have this really thinking of if you were stranded somewhere, you might want to leave a note for someone when you took off. It's really important to make sure that your family members, your loved ones, people always know where you're going to be and what route you're going to take to get there and get back. So if something does happen, they would know where to look for you. It's also important to talk about plans. But if you were to be out and about, something happened, you were to head out towards home or towards wherever, and somebody was to come looking for you, you might want to leave a note. Whenever I think about really bad major disasters, I always think about people leaving notes. But the thing is, there's a lot of other things that this could be used for as well. So I just thought it was an important thing to include. And then the other thing in this pouch is some cordage. Now this is just, I think this is 25 feet. This is actually survival cord, which means that if you were to look at the end, the ends are kind of burned off and sealed off, so you really can't see it. But if you were to cut this and open this up, you could unravel this, and inside this cord is a strand of fire tinder cord, and there's a strand of fishing line, and there's a strand of sewing cord that you could use for sewing your clothes or your gear, or even, you know, skin if it came down to that. So I really like things that are multi-purpose. If I can get, you know, one thing that can serve multiple purposes, I'm going to. So I can have this if I need it for hanging something, for building up a rudimentary shelter or anything like that, but I also could use the internal components if I needed to. So next we're going to get into this rear pocket. And the first thing I have here is my little water filter bag. This was perfect because it's blue for water, and it just perfectly fits what I needed to keep in here. Because I do have a Sawyer little filter. So this is a Sawyer filter. These are really, really good, and they're really, really inexpensive. So they're a nice thing to have on hand. This is a Sawyer squeeze. I did put actually in the back with my hydration bladder, I'll show you, I did put one of the squeeze pouches. But what I also have here is I have some of these inline adapters. These could be used to put the filter right in line on your hydration bladder. So you'd basically cut the tubing of the hydration bladder. These would screw onto either end of the filter, and then you would put your tubing right into these, and you could filter right through your tubing right from your water bladder. But I did include the squeeze pouch in case I didn't want to put the unfiltered water into my bladder and possibly, you know, contaminate that. So I have both options. And then this is a coupler for cleaning. It can allow a regular water bottle to attach onto the Sawyer to back flush it. But I do have in the little baggie the syringe that it comes with. Now, a Sawyer filter, probably any water filter, they should not freeze if they've been used. If they've had water through them or they're wet, they shouldn't freeze. They're okay if they've never had any water through them, which this one hasn't. Other than that, you'd want to be careful about keeping something like that in your vehicle if you live where it can freeze. The next thing that I have in that back pouch is a waterproof box that is my fire kit. Now, I think the idea with a get home bag is really you're hoping to get home all in one shot. You're not hoping to set up camp and have to build a campfire or anything, but you can never be too careful. You should always have something, I feel like, to build a fire, start a fire, because you just never know. You might get tired and have to stop for a while. You might run into bad weather or something and have to stop and take shelter. You might want to start a fire. If you have trouble finding water or clean water, you're filtering, you lose it, it doesn't work, it breaks, something like that. You might need to boil water to clean it, or you might need to melt snow to get water. There's lots of different situations where you might need to start a fire. So what I have here is I have a few lighters. This is just a regular Bic lighter, but I put this waterproof cover on it. I can't remember what it's called, but I'll link it down below in the description box. It's something that just comes separately, goes right onto your Bic lighter. It also would keep it so that the little button cannot get depressed and let out all the fuel while it's packed in your bag, which I don't think that would be an issue here because this is a rigid, solid container, so nothing is going to get crushed. I have a couple of these zip fire starters. You just light the package and they will light right up. This is some waxed tinder type of stuff. Some more tinder here. Couple more lighters. This is one of the slightly longer Bic lighters. I really like these because I don't like getting my fingers near the flame, so I've got this one. This is just a waterproof container with some matches inside and a striker for the matches. A Zippo lighter. This is actually one of those, what do they call it? I think they call it a permanent match or a forever match. It's got its own little, I don't know how to explain it, but you strike it on here and it's got a little wick almost, or some little tindery stuff. I'm not really sure how to explain it. Maybe I can make a video of this. This box right here contains just a little bit of fat wood, which is really good for starting a fire. And then this is just a little portable bellows type of thing. You would extend it and then you could blow down into the base of your fire. I thought this was kind of silly at first, but then I realized it's really super, super light. So I figured it couldn't hurt because it fits right in my kit. So I do have that in there. And of course, this kit is gasketed and waterproof. So hopefully this would keep all of these supplies safe, and it would even float. If my bag was to fall in the water, this would float. Next, I've got my food bag. Now this is just kind of like a personal MRE pack. We put these together. Sometimes I do have a video on this. You can do these in vacuum seal bags. You can do them in Ziploc bags, anything you want. This is basically 1 day's worth of food. There's some stuff for lunch. There's some stuff for breakfast. There's some stuff for dinner, and there's some snacks. And mine has coffees, and there's hydration packs, silverware utensils, things like that. You can see I've also got disinfecting wipe if you want to clean up beforehand, spreads and stuff like that, all sorts of different things. So this would be 1 day's worth of food, basically. You could stretch it out and ration it if you needed to. And I will link that video down below where I put together a bunch of those so you see how we tend to do that. It can be fun. You can set out, sometimes I'll set out, these are breakfast items, these are lunch items, these are dinner items, these are snack items, drinks, and let people kind of make their own. The kids or whatever, pick what they want to have in theirs. Next, I've got some stuff I would consider shelter items. This is just one of those emergency sleeping bags, they call it. So it's kind of like a glorified emergency Mylar blanket, except it's sewn into a sleeping bag shape. It's pretty big. This one is, you can tell it's not too bad the way that the material is, but I definitely am not going to take this out and try to get it back in here. This would be just if you really had to stop in an emergency, you just really needed to stay warm and not freeze to death. They're not comfy, they're not cozy. They do make some problems with condensation and things like that, but it's definitely an important thing to have just in case. To go along with that, I do have a poncho that's waterproof. Now this is another multifunction or multi-purpose type of item, which I really like to have because I could wear this as a poncho and this could keep me dry. It could keep my bag dry. But it could also be used to make kind of a rudimentary kind of a shelter because it does have grommets in the corners and it actually has rope attached right to it, which I don't know if I realized it had rope attached to it, but it has grommets so that you could hang this if you needed to create almost like a little tent shelter. It is waterproof. It can also be used if, as like a privacy shelter for going to the bathroom, if you were maybe stuck along a highway, like has happened sometimes when we've had some bad weather and people are stuck on the highway for a day or two. When you gotta go, you gotta go. So this can serve as something to cover up, your body. Now this is something that also goes along with this whole system. This is a fleece sleeping bag. I love these fleece sleeping bags. This is kind of bulky, but it's not not very heavy. It's a very light fleece, and so it's not going to be super warm, but it's easy to carry. And this, my idea with this is it could be used in conjunction with the emergency sleeping bag to make sort of a more comfortable situation, probably. Or it could be used on its own if it wasn't very cold. It could be used as a sleeping bag. It can be unzipped and used as a blanket or a ground cover or anything like that. So we use these a lot for camping. You can use it as a sleeping bag liner if it's really, really cold, or if it's really, really hot, you can just use it alone as a light sleeping bag. So even though this takes up quite a bit of space in my bag, I really did want to have it in there. I'm a weenie and I really hate being cold, so anything to keep warm. And then I've got this, it's like a heavy duty, can't remember what they call this, a heavy duty space blanket. It actually has stakes with it, a heavy duty waterproof. You could use this to wrap up in as a blanket. You could use it as a ground cover. It's really plasticky and waterproof, but it's got that Mylar reflective stuff, but it's a lot more heavy duty than something like this or that Mylar blanket that was in the first aid kit. I debated on this. I was going to take this out of the kit, but it's really not too heavy, and I thought it could come in handy for so many things. It could come in handy as a ground cover. It could be good for shelter building if you needed it. So this was just something I did decide to keep it in. And then down in the very bottom of this pocket, just kind of hidden because it's kind of like a last resort kind of thing, I do have some of these lifeboat rations, whatever they call them. They're the emergency bars. These are just kind of like a compressed calorie cookie. So they've got just a lot of sugar and a lot of fat and things like that. So this block right here contains 2,400 calories. So if I was desperate, if I had run out of all my food and I still needed to keep going or still needed to, you know, hunker down somewhere, I could turn to this. It's not something I'd really want to survive on, but it definitely would do the trick. They also have a really long shelf life, and they're kind of impervious to, you know, the heat and cold in your vehicle. So they're a good thing to store in a lot of situations. Now in my side pockets, this side pocket just has kind of like a little toolkit. I don't have a lot of tools in this kit because they're heavy and I probably wouldn't know what to do with a lot of things. Anyways, I have a lot of other tools in my car emergency kit. If I thought I needed to grab something, I could. First thing I have in here is one of these little flat duct tape rolls. I love these because it is nice to have duct tape. A lot of people will wrap the duct tape around a lighter or an old credit card. I don't like that. I don't know, just something bothers me about the idea of unraveling the tape and then wrapping it back up. I feel like you must lose some of its stickiness, but maybe not because thousands and thousands of people do it, but I buy these. And then I have just a multi-tool. This is a Gerber multi-tool, so it's a nice one. It's a decent brand, but it's not anything fancy. It does have all the general tools you have. It does have a blade on it. I do carry as like a pocket knife just on my person pretty much all the time. So that's part of my EDC that I would always have with me, and it would be right on my person. So this is just sort of like an extra thing because it has a lot of different extra tools. You never know what you might need. And then I do have this knife sharpener that could be used for this or for my pocket knife that I carry. And I like this one because it also has a fire starter attached into it. So that's an extra fire starting thing. And then this is just kind of like a Silcock key, or it is a Silcock key, but it has some other stuff on it. This one, I actually really like this one. I've ordered other things like this and returned them. This isn't too heavy and it's compact. These two do come apart. If you turn them and you can lift them apart, but then they lock back together. So this could be used for opening water valves on the outside of buildings, for example. If you needed to get water, you could get it from the outside of a lot of different buildings, especially if you're in an urban area. And then of course there's lots of other uses for all of these different things. I do have in here, I don't want to really haul them out, but I have a bunch of different zip ties. Zip ties are always handy to have. You can use them to hold something together. You can use them to hang something up. You can use them for all sorts of different things. And then this little box, I just put some of my smallest tools in so they wouldn't get lost because they're small. I don't know what this box came from. I'm sure something else came in it and I don't remember, but I just have, so far what I have in here is one of these P38 can openers. I think it's P38. That is super simple, super small, super thin, but you can use it to open a can. And then this is one of those sort of saw chain things that you would just, I honestly would never want to have to cut through anything with something like this, hopefully. But because it was very small and very light, I decided to throw it in here. I do have a much bigger, more useful folding saw that's with my car emergency gear. So if it was to be a situation where I thought there was a good chance I might have to use a saw, like there was a lot of downed trees or something like that, then I could grab that out of my gear and take that with me. And I forgot to mention that these pouches, these came in a set of 4. I only used 3 of them in this kit, but I really like these. They're water resistant, I guess. I almost think they said waterproof, but I don't think they're waterproof. They're water resistant little tool pouches. I like that they're different colors so you can color code things, but they're actually really nice, sturdy pouches, and it's really good for organizing your gear. They do have these clips, so you could clip them and hang them onto something. So now I've just got this one more outer pouch here. And this is my communication stuff. So this is the one place that I really, really want to improve. This is what I'm going to work on improving. I do have an emergency radio in here that gets the weather bands, AM, FM, shortwave, I think. This one, it charges up with a cord, and then it has a hand crank, and it does have a small solar panel. I think that's pretty much a joke on anything like that. Anything that has these little hand cranks and these solar panels, you can get a little bit of energy out of that, but you definitely don't want to rely on it. I did charge this up, and then I ended up putting the battery tab back in it that it came with, because I didn't want to have to store the batteries outside of it. It takes up a lot less space if they're actually inside, but I didn't want it to get accidentally turned on. And the other thing is I couldn't get the clock screen to turn off, so I didn't want it to run down the battery. You do need to remember to check your items that you have inside of a bag like this or a kit like this and recharge things when they need to be, and keep an eye on that every few months or whatever. And then the other thing that I have in that pouch is our little GMRS radio. I definitely want to work on my communication plan for my get home bag, so I would be open to hearing what everyone else does for communication. This, I thought at least this does have the NOAA weather bands on it, so I wasn't even going to pack an emergency radio, but then I realized I don't think this has AM, FM on it. So I packed them both. It is GMRS, so some of the things that I'm thinking of for the communication portion of this bag is I'd really, really like to get a satellite communicator. They work on satellite, and they can send usually text messages or SOS and things like that, but they're really, really expensive. There's one I was just looking at that I would love to get. It's a Garmin, so it also has navigation, so that would be super handy in a pack like this, and it has satellite communication. And that's kind of moved to the top of my list, partly because it was a little less expensive than some of the other satellite communicators that I've looked at. But let me know what you use for your communication in a bag like this or a kit like this, because I'm definitely looking to improve that area. So the only other things left in this bag is, of course, I do have the hydration pouch back here. I don't have it set up, but you would just thread the hose part through from the inside to the outside, and then you can drink as you walk. And like I said, I did put a little Sawyer squeeze pouch in there. It's super light. It's just like a little plastic pouch, just in case I wanted to filter the water into the bladder rather than putting the dirty water in the bladder and drinking it out through the filter. So I have both options. Of course, I also have the water purification tablets, so I definitely have a few ways to do that. Couple other things I wanted to show you about this bag now that it's empty. It does have the compression straps down at the bottom where you could attach like a sleeping bag or a sleeping roll or anything like that. So if I needed more space in this bag because maybe I wanted to add a few items from my car before I took off, I could always take out that fleece sleeping bag and attach it down here, or maybe that heavy duty emergency blanket, anything I could attach down here. And the other thing is I've had this bag for probably like a year at least, and I've never noticed this until today. I was getting ready to do this video and I said, what is this zipper in this pouch down here? And I had never noticed this. It's basically a little pouch at the bottom of the bag, and it's kind of hidden under everything else. And in here is a rain cover for the backpack, which is pretty awesome. I don't think I even realized this came with this rain cover, obviously, but I went back to the review, to the product listing, because I wanted to see if that really was what this was without having to open it all up and maybe just not be able to get it back in the pouch. And there were a lot of people who said they returned it because it didn't come with the rain cover, and that was the reason they bought it. And I think they probably just didn't know where to find it, because I have had this bag for about a year. Never saw that before. But that is a really cool feature about it. It says the bag has the YKK zippers and buckles and all of that. I think it's a pretty decent bag for the price. I didn't pay a whole lot for it. The bag itself is very light, which is important when you're going to be packing it out, because you don't want to make your bag too heavy to carry. I have put this bag on when it's loaded up and carried it around, and I seem to be doing okay with it. If I had to head up climbing up a mountain, it would probably slow me down a little bit, but on flat ground, I think I'll be okay. A lot of the weight that's going to be in this bag is going to be food and water, and those are two things that you are going to deplete, and you're going to lower that weight as you're going. So it's not really important what bag you have. The most important thing is to get started. Of course, you want a bag that's going to be comfortable to carry, fairly inconspicuous if that's something that you're concerned about, large enough to carry what you need, but not so large that you could overpack it and end up with a bag that you can't realistically carry. But start with what you have or what you can afford. Even if that means grabbing your kid's old cast-off school backpack and throwing it in your trunk with some water, a few snacks, and an old pair of sneakers. Just get started. Something is better than nothing, and you can build on it and improve it little by little over time. So this is where my get home bag lives. This is the back of my vehicle. I drive a minivan, and everything in here is what I would need to get home if my car weren't working anymore. To start with, I do have a pair of hiking boots here. My hiking boots, I think everyone should have a good pair of walking or hiking shoes in their vehicle at all times. Each boot does have a pair of hiking socks stuffed inside of it, so that's 2 extra pairs of socks. And then we've got this bag. This is a Faraday bag, and this is a really large Faraday bag. It's actually meant for holding generators. This could hold our full-size gas generator, but we're using it for a different purpose. Inside this bag is my get home bag. That will protect all of the communication devices, anything inside that needed to have EMP protection. And then we also have in the bag so here is my bag. I do take the sweatshirt off just for space purposes. And then this, you may remember that we recently got a folding e-bike that we were really excited about adding to our preps as part of our backup grid down sort of transportation plan. And we got the Faraday bag to protect the bike. We did email our friends at EMP Shield and ask them if they had anything that would protect an e-bike, and they said they didn't. So it had to be a Faraday bag that this would fit inside of. So that's what we got. This is the Hobsco Hov Beta 20-inch folding electric bike. I was really, really excited to find an e-bike that I would be able to actually fold up and fit inside my vehicle. This is going to be great not only for emergency purposes, but we also plan on using this for recreation purposes as well, and just for saving money on gas sometimes. So in an emergency, I would just remove the bike from the car. All right, here it is. You can get front and rear cargo baskets for the Hobsco, and we did get both of those, so you can use it to carry cargo, which is pretty awesome. I'm showing this rear one here with my backpack strapped on. Now, if you were going to do that, you just got to be careful not to let the straps, of course, hang down towards the wheels. And then up here, this front basket, we had to take this off in order to get the whole bike to fit into the Faraday bag. But it attaches and detaches super, super easy. It's just 4 little bolts. And you could fit this somewhere else in the vehicle. I've got my extra pack from my backpack up here. The Hobsco does come with this little toolkit, and this is pretty awesome. It came with this. It's all kinds of tools that you could use for repairs, maintenance, whatever you needed on the bike while you're on the road. Lots of different Allen wrenches, regular wrenches, screwdrivers, stuff like that, all wrapped up in their own little case, and we just bungeed it right to the frame here. I first came up with this idea when I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was really concerned about something like an EMP that could occur while she was at work 30 miles away and her daughter was home and at school. And we talked and brainstormed a little bit, and we came up with the idea of a bike and stashing a bike in her truck so that she would have that to get home more quickly if something like an EMP were to happen and her vehicle were not operational. Now, of course, there are EMP shields you can get for your vehicles, but depending on how many other vehicles are broken down on the roads, you may or may not be able to actually get anywhere with your vehicle if you had one of those EMP shields. So the idea of having a bike as part of the get home gear kind of evolved into having an e-bike. And when we found this folding e-bike that I could actually fit right into the back of my vehicle, we were really excited about that. So I'm super excited to have this e-bike as a possible means of transportation if something like an EMP were to leave my car inoperable. Of course, we also have our solar generators that we could use to recharge this battery. So I think this would actually be a really good, feasible form of transportation in a long-term grid down situation. We do have a whole review that we did on this bike when we first got it. So if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about it, go ahead and check the video description below to see a little bit more. And then a few other things that are a pretty important part of my get home plan. I always keep maps in the car. So this is an atlas of Maine. This is always in my car. And then this is a map of snowmobile trails throughout the state. And this, I feel like, could be important just because you might want to have ways that you could travel that might be off the main roads and off the beaten path. Now, both of these books are, they're not really light. So this is not something that I keep in my backpack or would want to carry with me all the time. They just stay in the car. But this is a thin paper fold-up map that I can use to map out a trail, mark it out on this map, and this can go with me in my bag. This would be for if something happens when you're in a place that you're not that familiar with, and you're maybe not that familiar with how to get home, or maybe you want to find a path that is not how you would typically go by car. So these things obviously are specific to me because I'm in Maine, but I think it's a good idea for anybody to have something like this in your get home supplies in your car that's relative to your own state. If you are just getting started on your prepping journey, I think a get home bag should be one of the first things you put together. Why is that? A get home bag is kind of like a scaled down version of a bug out bag. Most people will put this together and keep it in their car or their vehicle. So it could essentially serve as a bug out bag for you if you did have to bug out, evacuate, or leave your home base for a period of time. This could serve as your bug out bag, and it's already in your vehicle ready to go. Likewise, it could also serve as part of your vehicle emergency kit because it's a bag that's kept in your vehicle filled with emergency and survival gear. So you can put together one kit and kind of cover 3 bases in a rudimentary way. Of course, I don't recommend that you stop there. Go ahead and put together that bug out bag. Add more emergency gear to your car. There may even be duplicate items, but duplication is a good thing. And often when people are stranded in their vehicle, it's not just one person. A lot of times it's a couple or a family. So with the get home bag on top of the vehicle emergency kit, you'd have sufficient supplies for one person to stay put while one person sets off in search of help. Okay guys, thank you for being with me today. That was a look at my get home bag and gear. Let me know down in the comments if you have this part of your prepping covered or if you still need to work on it. What other kind of things do you recommend I add to my get home bag? If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me a home emoji down in the comments and check out this video next for another kit I've put together. I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.